Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors in Winston, Chester. I'm glad to hear this morning. Got a great show lined up with a special guest here with some cool video. But first, let's take a look at our weather brought to us by Gulf Coast Air Conditioning. Drew Pollard and hard-working crew up there in Southport taking care of our everyday comfort needs. High today's only 84. Only 84, that's not bad, is it? Low 73. Water temperature 88.3 at the end of the pier. That is warm water coming out of the Gulf. Take a look at our river readings brought to us by Mountain Dew. The Apalachicola of Blountstown is an even 4 foot and pretty steady over on the big river. The Choctahatchee at Caryville, take a look at it, 5.2. It's been up a little bit with all this rain. May have a little bit of drop to it, but we have some rain coming the next couple of days, so the Choctahatchee is going to stay pretty high up around that 5 or 6 level. Not super high, but it's going to have some water coming down it. Our tide chart, take a look at it. Good strong tides brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. High tide at 8:42 this morning and going out till about 7:15 tonight. The wind will be coming out of the east about 6. So that's a quick weather. We want to get through it pretty fast. We've got so much stuff to cover in the next segment. So let's take a break and we'll be right back with our guest. Okay, well, welcome back, and look who's back with us. So we really enjoy having Steve Shea. Welcome back, buddy.
Good to see you, Winston. Glad to be back.
And he brought some really cool stuff on the alligators, and we're going to do, yesterday we had a scallop show, today's going to be an alligator show. Before we get to the gators, though, we got one picture to show, and go and tell us about this picture.
Last time I was on the show, was it in July? I invited Winston to go out on a snapper fishing trip, and we were all dialed in. The night before, he called and canceled on me. And so I sent him this picture the next day. This is a group of friends of mine, Eric Richardson, Paul Winterman, and Jim Kochevar. And we limited out on snapper, matched that number with mangrove snapper, and I told Winston the only thing missing was him.
That's true. He's been rubbing it in since then, and I don't blame him. I would do the same thing. What it was, Ashley, our granddaughter, the only time she could come down and visit us all summer was that little window of time she called, and so that's why I would cancel. I didn't very rarely cancel on a fishing trip. You see what happened. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I'm going to try to go next time. Don't forget about me. Okay. Now, let's get to alligators. You sent some remarkable pictures and some videos. But tell people briefly how you entered these gators.
Yeah, the state of Florida has a private lands egg harvest program. So participating landowners that are part of the private lands alligator management program can actually have eggs harvested from their property, and those eggs go to alligator farms across the state of Florida. Part of that regulatory process, a certified wildlife biologist has to conduct a survey and oversee the egg collection. And so I've been doing that for 30 years now for the largest farm here in the state of Florida. And so Winston and I have talked about this, so he said, hey, bring in some film videos and some photos of how that works. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so the way we have it set up, he sent a plethora of pictures and videos. So we're going to, the first segment, we're going to go through the still photos, then come back later and sort of dial in the videos. So it might take a little bit of time doing all that. If we don't get it all covered today, we'll just have them come back because we don't want to rush through it. As you know, we've had a couple of fatal gator attacks. We were just talking about that one.
Yeah, there's 2 in South Carolina this year, which is
2 in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. So it's something. And when I looked at this video, I looked at it the other night when they sent it. The video they shot. I've been outdoors my whole life. I just cannot realize how aggressive they are.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how fast and quick. So anyway, let's get to the pictures, and we'll dial them in and just sort of tell us about this first one here.
Yeah, so when we do aerial helicopter surveys to find the alligator nest, and so you're looking for a nest signature on the wetland landscapes. And if you see the center of that photo, you see that dead grassy mound. Well, that's actually an alligator that she's created by scratching up vegetation into a mound.
Okay.
So that's just an example of how it looks from the air.
Okay.
And here's another one in a wetland. You actually see the trail, the alligator trail going in, and it almost looks like a donut. Well, that grassy area in the middle is the alligator nest where vegetation has started to grow up in it. Yeah. That circular canal around it is what she makes and is kind of what we call the guard pool. So when we collect that nest, the pilot will actually drop us in the marsh and we have to wade through that wetland, through that guard pool to get the eggs out of the nest. So you can tell that would be a somewhat dangerous situation in some circumstances. Yeah.
Okay.
Here's a good image that shows I'm up in the helicopter, and so you see the shadow of the helicopter, and you see off the tip of the front blade, you can see that that dead grassy area. That's where the nest is.
Wow.
So that's what it would look like from the air.
That's cool.
And in some places, we actually have boats in the helicopter, and we radio the pilot or the boat operator into where the nest is, and they harvest it. So here you can see the boat with the Go Devil on it, and 2 collectors going up to the nest to actually harvest the eggs.
Oh, okay. Right in.
Right. You see one guy got an orange shirt on, the other green shirt.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So they went right up into there.
Yeah, yeah.
And the bravest guy is up front, right?
Yep, yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Took a shot of this. As you can see where the alligator scratched up all the vegetation and made the pile. Did it right amongst this junk equipment pile. You see the disc there and some farm equipment, and they see the alligator nest just on the other side of the barbed wire fence right there in the middle. So they'll nest in the strange places.
Well, I was wondering when I looked at this where this stuff came from. So it's just abandoned out there?
Yeah, just abandoned on the farm. Oh. And you notice that alligator nest, in the middle of it, there's almost like a crease in the middle of the alligator nest. That you typically see that on nests, and that's where the female will actually lay up. We call it a tail drag. Okay. You'll see that in the middle of the nest, and that's where she lays up on the nest, especially at nighttime, to guard the nest from predators.
Okay.
And here's a typical scenario when you walk up to an alligator nest. There's the nest right behind her. You see the grassy mound where she piled up the vegetation, and she's laid up on the bank guarding it.
And this is what's remarkable, the magnitude of their ferocity in guarding their...
Oh, yeah.
They don't want you to mess with those eggs, do they?
So this is typical when I approach a nest, there'll be a female there, and so I'm trying to basically get her off the nest and get a defensible position so I can collect the eggs and keep myself safe and then harvest the eggs. So, yeah.
This is a true life adventure, okay? All right, let's see. Oh, what happened here?
Another thing is in the marsh, the highest ground in the marsh is that alligator nest. So what an alligator does, it scratches up that vegetation, and the decomposition process, almost like a compost pile. It produces heat, and that heat incubates the eggs. Well, that's perfect place for fire ants also to put their nests. So when you're opening the nest, the fire ants are biting the crap out of you.
Man.
And so it takes me almost a month to heal up after collecting eggs with all the ant bites that I get.
Oh, yeah. Goodness gracious. Okay, well, that's a good one to stop on. We got a lot more pictures. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll come right back. Okay, welcome back. Sitting here with Steve Shea, wildlife biologist extraordinaire. I was telling him, you see a lot of these TV shows and people act like they're in danger doing this outdoor stuff. This guy really is. You're going to see in the video, but let's lead into it. We're talking about the number of gators.
Yeah, in Florida now, it's estimated there's 1.3 million alligators in the state of Florida. So wherever there's fresh water or brackish water, or even some places in coastal communities with salt water, you're going to have alligators. Far cry from what it was back in the 1960s. In 1967, the Fish and Wildlife Service listed the alligator as an endangered species. But it's had the fastest recovery, I think, of any species ever put on the list. So in 67, it was listed. 10 years later, it was delisted. And 10 years after that, the state of Florida was implementing hunting programs for alligators.
That's amazing.
Over a 20-year period. So what that tells me is probably the alligator probably should not have been listed as an endangered species. It recovered much too quickly. There was probably a lot more alligators there than that were believed. Yeah. So, but a lesson learned. But it was instrumental in the alligator's recovery, though.
Well, back then, nobody wanted to go out there in that swamp and count them. Yeah. They didn't have the drones and all, so they said, okay, we don't have enough. All right, here we go. We got some more pictures. Tell us about this one here.
All right, so this is a typical what you see when a helicopter pilot drops us off at a nest. One of the first things you have to do is get the female that's guarding the nest off. So here is one of the guys that I work with, and him approaching the nest, which is just uphill from where that alligator is, and he's trying to get her off the nest so he can collect the eggs.
Okay, all right.
This is what a typical alligator nest looks like. Usually they're about 10 foot wide and about 3 foot in height. I've seen them actually 7 foot high in areas where the wetlands increase and decrease in hydrology. Sometimes they'll build them really high to protect them from flooding.
Wow. Here we go.
There you go. Once you open a nest, this is how you see the clutch of eggs. There's usually 35, on average 35 eggs in the nest, but you'll see anywhere from 20 to 50 eggs. The eggs are strange shape. They're usually about 3 to 3.5 inches long and about 1.5 to 1 3/4 inches wide. So they're somewhat oblong.
Elongated then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This shows a close-up of a clutch of eggs.
Wow.
Yeah. And this shows you the shape of an egg. And what's different of a chicken egg, if you bang a chicken egg together, it'll crack and break. The alligator eggshell is much, much thicker, and it's almost like porcelain. Really? You bang it together, it'll clink. It'll go clink, clink, clink when you bang the eggs together. So they're much more robust than like a chicken egg or other reptile eggs.
Wow. All right.
Okay.
Now.
Well, once we remove the eggs from the nest, we actually mark the top. So every egg, how it lays in the nest, that embryo will attach to the top of the egg. And so you want to make sure when you transport those eggs and collect them, you always keep the top facing up, because if it rolls, that embryo could tear and detach from the shell and kill it.
Oh.
So we do this to try to ensure the highest survival rate of the eggs that we collect. So that shows me marking the eggs.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. So.
And this is a typical scenario. So you're collecting alligator eggs. You already saw from the fire ant bites. You're trying to keep the fire ants off you, and you're always keeping your eye on where that female is, because there'll be several times during the collection of eggs she'll come up and try to get you. And so you're constantly having to keep one eye on her and one eye on the eggs.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so here we go. What are we doing here?
Yeah, so once we collect the eggs, back at the landing zone, the LZ, we actually candle the eggs. As you hold a flashlight to the egg, and you can determine which ones are alive and which ones are dead. The farm only buys the live eggs, so we have to discard the ones that are dead.
Oh.
This shows, see that pink hue to the egg, that shows that egg is alive, because that red is actually the reflection of the blood vessels of the growing embryo. So that would be a live egg. So that's an example of what a live egg looks like when you candle.
How interesting. Okay.
All right, now see how different this is. You see in the middle of the eggshell, there's that darker white. Well, that's what we call a banding process. So if the banding process starts in the egg, you know there's a live embryo in there. But you see this egg, we knew there was a live embryo in there, but see how it has that yellow hue? So the color is different from the live one. So this is probably an egg where the embryo died some period during the incubation process. So that, most likely, that egg would be discarded.
Whoa. Who knew all this stuff?
So there's another infertile egg in this, not infertile, but a dead embryo in that egg. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's just a process you go through?
Process you go through. And here, this one shows where there's no band on the egg. It almost looks like a light. We call them light bulbs. It's just an opaque color throughout the whole egg. That means that egg was never fertilized. So it's an infertile egg. So that one also would be discarded.
Huh.
So the collection is just one part of the process. And then the candling of the eggs is another very important process, so you know which eggs to retain.
Wow. So what's the average? I counted while we were talking in that nest, I counted roughly, real quickly, around 33 eggs. So 30 to 35 eggs.
Yep.
How many of those would be good live eggs, percentage-wise?
Well,
usually?
It's different. Sometimes you'll get a nest and the female was bred, but none of the eggs were fertilized, so you'll discard all the eggs.
Yeah.
But I would say on the average, we'll average in about 30 eggs per nest on average across the property, so that's kind of what you're averaging of what you actually retain. In that candling process, when those go back to the farm, we average about 82% survival. Of those hatchlings. So that whole candling process that we do and taking care of the eggs during transport and collection really increases the chances that that egg's going to be fine and those hatchlings will survive.
Where do y'all actually do the candling process? Or what location? Is it right after you take them out? Or do you take them in? Or
Yeah, you do them actually on the property.
On the property,
Yeah,
okay.
so you're permitted to collect eggs from that specific property. So we'll kindle the eggs on site on that property.
Okay.
And then we have to keep track of how many eggs we retain, and there's all paperwork involved. So if you're stopped by FWC, they say, yep, these are the eggs we collected from here. This is the numbers. They all match up. All paperwork. So it's a highly regulated process.
how many is in your crew usually? You got a helicopter pilot?
It's different, yeah, and so I'll spend 8 to 10 hours a day in a helicopter for 3 to 4 weeks during the summertime, and we'll have a crew of anywhere from 5 to 7 people that are either sallying out of the helicopter collecting the eggs or in boats collecting eggs. So it's a pretty laborious process, but we're really efficient. We average 1,000 to 1,500 eggs a day. Is what we'll collect.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That many?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And we do the collections in July, the first half of July.
Okay.
The breeding chronology of alligators across most of the state, they'll breed in the months of April and May.
Okay.
And then they'll build the nests most of the time in June. Sometimes they'll still be nesting in early July, but by the end of June, most of the nests are laid down. So that's when we'll start collecting the eggs and doing the nest surveys right at the 1st of July. Yeah.
Okay. And then that's a 2-3 week process? Or?
Yeah, it's many eggs. The market, the alligator industry market goes up and down, and if the market is good and need a lot of eggs, we'll collect a lot of eggs. Sometimes 25 to 30,000 eggs we'll collect in a season. But this year, the market's down, so we collected about 15,000. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
We'll take a break, come back with a final segment. We're going to look at some videos next. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Here with Steve Shea. We're talking off the air about so many things and all we want to get covered and share with y'all. But let's take a look at our fishing game times today, brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers in Port St. Joe. Our time we're looking at 9:50 to 11:50, and this evening from 10:15 to 12:15. So all kind of feeding times, and I guess the Gators have the same kind of feeding times too, don't they?
They lead, and of course, wintertime they don't eat much. When the water temperatures are down, wintertime they don't eat that much, but during the warm season they will.
Okay, the market, it's interesting how the market varies and all, so tell us quickly about that as I set up the video.
Yeah, well, the alligator market is down right now. Now, meat prices are through the roof. I mean, alligator meat is a novelty, and because there's not a lot of alligators being harvested on the farms, there's a shortage of meat, so the prices are really high, which is good if you're a farmer. But what happened with COVID, Asia is one of the biggest market for alligator products. And because of how COVID impacted Asia, there was a lot of products that weren't being sold. So what was happening is there was so many hides built up in surplus, and now that the market is starting to recover, there's so much surplus of tanned hides, so they have to use that up until they start needing the new ones. So from a harvest regarding the eggs, it's still down until kind of recover from the lag of COVID, and then things should pick back up.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. We're going to try to see if we can get this video going. So tell us about this first video.
Well, this is a typical aerial. I'm flying in the helicopter, and you see those brown patches on that levee. Those are alligator nests. So there's another one. So just in that short stint, we saw 4 or 5 different alligator nests. And so then what we'll do is we'll circle back and get the airboats to come in and collect those eggs. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So that's just an example of a typical flight scenario where I'm in a helicopter and we're finding the eggs, the nests.
All right, this next one. Okay, watch this, folks. This is amazing.
Okay, so here I'm at a nest here, and you can see the alligator nest. Well, there's a female that wouldn't let me near the nest, and you can see her in the canal, and the pilot's trying to get her off of the nest, and see her jumping at the helicopter. So it shows you how aggressive those females can be. And if they're fearless from the helicopter like that, you can imagine when I approach the nest, they have no fear from me at all.
Oh my goodness.
So that just gives you an example of and what's interesting is these female alligators, they'll nest in the same location every year. Okay. I've had for 15 years, the alligator will nest in the same place on a canal. About 70% of the time, they'll nest in the same place. And so and each female has their own personality. I'll know, oh, this nest over here, oh, that's that mean mama that's been there for 10 years. I know I'm going to have problems.
You give them names like Karen and Hazel and all that.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if we watch that again. That's just amazing. I don't know if it'll come on. Watch this same one we just showed. Watch the gator jump up. Watch her jump up. So look at her.
Yeah.
I had to look at this a couple times the other night. If an alligator will attack a helicopter, like you say, what are you going to do? Little guy just stand there, walk up. They ain't not going to hesitate, are they?
Yeah.
This is aggressiveness that you've been talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say the nests I collect, probably you'll only see the female, I don't know, 50, 60% of the time.
Okay.
And of that 50, probably half of those times she's going to be aggressive. I would say 25 to 30% of the nests, you're going to have to fight the female. But the thing is, she's trying to defend her nest. She's not trying to eat me.
Right.
I mean, she wants you to leave. But it's different, the intensity. I've had alligators that have chased me away from the nest. I mean, usually they'll just guard the nest area where they'll follow you. I mean, they're so aggressive. There was 2 times last year collecting out where I had such close calls where, I mean, I was actually scared. Usually I don't get scared at a nest, but I had an alligator knock me down and I was laying face down on the ground and she was standing over me.
Oh my goodness.
And I was just motionless still on the ground and her leg was right there. And when I couldn't move. If I moved, she would have got me. And she was a big one, 9.5-foot female. And slowly she turned to walk away and her tail knocked my hat off.
Oh my
That's how close she was. And so that's some of the things that, and of course in those instances you can't film. You're just trying to survive,
Yeah.
you know?
We're running out of time. We're going to end the show with that. We've got a bunch more videos. Steve's going to come back maybe one day next week, and we're going to watch the rest of his videos and see if he survived that last attack there, okay? Thank you, Steve. Y'all do something good today for fellow man. Have a great day, and God bless.
God bless. Thanks, Winston.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.